You had moments where you knew exactly what to do. It wasn't emotional. It wasn't confusing. It was clear. And still, you didn't follow it. You paused. You waited. You started thinking instead of moving. Something in you stepped in and slowed it down. There are moments where something is obvious, not because someone told you, because you see it. A decision, a move, a direction. And for a second, you're aligned with it. It's clean. Then you hesitate. Not because it disappeared, because you stepped out of it. The moment you hesitate, you start analyzing. Is this right? What if I'm wrong? Should I wait? And thinking feels like the right thing to do, like you're being careful. But what you're actually doing is replacing clarity with doubt. Because thinking doesn't strengthen it, it weakens it. The more you think, the less certain you feel. This isn't random, you learned this. At some point, you followed your instinct. It didn't go the way you expected, or someone questioned it, or you were told you were wrong. So you adjusted, slowly, repeatedly, and over time, you build a pattern. Don't move on the first signal, check it first. Now every clear moment gets filtered, not because it's unclear, because you don't accept it as enough. You think you're waiting for certainty, but certainty doesn't feel like you think. It doesn't feel emotional. It doesn't feel powerful. It's quiet. It shows up as, this is what I should do. And then it's gone. Not because it disappeared, because you questioned it. So you wait for something stronger, a better signal, a clearer sign, more confidence. But that doesn't come. Because you already had the signal. At the beginning, decisions are simple. You see something, you move. But once you start overthinking, every decision becomes a risk. Now it feels like you could mess it up. You could choose wrong. You could reject it. And that pressure changes how you act. Not because the decision is dangerous, because now it feels like it matters. And that changes everything. Not just the action, what it leads to. What happens if it works? What happens if it doesn't? You don't reject the decision, you delay it. You say, I'll think about it. I'll do it later. Let me be sure first. And that feels reasonable. But delay has a cost. You just don't feel it immediately. Because clarity doesn't stay open. It needs action to hold. When you don't act, it fades. Not because it wasn't real, because you didn't respond to it. When you stop trusting yourself, you look elsewhere. You want validation, agreement, reassurance, something that confirms what you already saw. But that creates another problem. Now you don't move until something external matches with your internal signal. And that slows everything down. Because the external confirmation is always delayed. Sometimes it never comes. This isn't one moment, it keeps happening. You see clearly, you hesitate, you overthink, you delay. Then later you look back and say, I knew it. But knowing doesn't matter if you don't move. And that's where the trust breaks. Not because you don't know, because you don't follow what you know. Confidence doesn't come from success. It comes from consistency with your own decisions. Every time you see something clearly and don't act on it, you weaken that trust. Not emotionally, functionally. Because your system learns, my signals don't lead to action. So next time it shows up weaker. The shift is simple, not easy, The shift is you move when it's clear, not when it feels perfect, not when you're fully confident, when it's clear. Because clarity doesn't wait. It appears and expects response. If you respond, it strengthens. If you hesitate, it fades. You don't trust yourself, not because you lack clarity, but because you don't act on it. You replace it with thinking. You delay it. You wait for something stronger. And in that process, you lose it. Not all at once, just enough to stay where you are. But if you start moving the moment it's clear, you don't need more certainty. You don't need more confidence. You build it. Because trust isn't something you feel first. It's something you create by not ignoring yourself. And once that starts, everything moves differently.